Actually, the Rebbe Tzaddik in Risisei Laila that talked about 5 hasagas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or 5 maybe drachim and avoda of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we went through the first 2. The first one, the first hasaga of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rebbe Tzaddik speaks about is Hakaras HaBorei, that Avraham Avinu introduced, and then the second Hakara was Hakara of Yitzchak, which was the idea of a Hakara of being a carbon, which I'm understanding is not about Kiddush Hashem, but it's almost about Kiddush Adam. Meaning, in the case of Avraham Avinu, he was willing to walk into fire. In the case of Yitzchak, he's willing to lay down on the mizbe'ach. But in the case of Avraham Avinu, he was willing to walk into a fire, and survive that. That was Kiddush Hashem. That was a great score for HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world, in terms of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's recognizing Hashem's Metzius in this world. Yitzchak was saying a different thing. He could be a carbon. It's not just about making a point, an intellectual point. It's about being a carbon. You can give off a reach nichalach la Hashem. You can actually affect the Shamayim. It's a different thing. It's about not knowing Hashem, but having a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a different idea, right? A carbon has, so there's two. They both seem to be doing the same thing, but it's very, very different.
Difference of mindset of
the kavanah is different, but we got to go further than that. It's not just a kavanah. They were megala something here. Person who's megala that through Avraham Avinu was megala that through my maisim I can make HaKadosh Baruch Hu great in this world. Wow, that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu is great. People like Eliezer ben Avram, or all the nefesh asher aser b'char, but Eliezer Avram ben the Chazal say he was like Melech HaBoshem. Like it wasn't just stabbed like an Eved with carried around a weight around his leg on a chain. It was Ish. He was a very, very chashuv person. But they came and they were mevatel themselves to Avraham Avinu because they realized, oh, this man really has got it. The Yitzchak, by the way, we don't find those chassidim by Yitzchak. We don't find chassidei Yitzchak, do we? No nefesh asher asa b'chara, no. But Yitzchak was a different thing. Yitzchak was makriv himself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what we learned in the Risisei Laila. Here Tzaddik says, let's read the paragraph again. See, if Yaakov was Torah and Avraham was Chesed and Emunah, so what was Yitzchak? Yira. So it's interesting that the Tachlis, it seems, Pachad Yitzchak. It seems that the Tachlis is, according to this Rebbe Tzaddik here, is L'Shleimus HaYira, according to Moshe Rabbeinu. What is Hashem asking you except for Yira Shamayim? So he's not asking you Avram, he's not asking you Yaakov, he's asking you Yitzchak, correct? Ein LaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olam Eloi shel Yira Shamayim. Zeh kol esek olam hazeh. I would have thought that your Shamayim is a means to an end. That's what I would have thought. And it is. But that's Yiras HaChet. Yiras HaRoimamos is not a means to an end. Yiras HaRoimamos is the goal. That is the end. That's Yitzchak. Zeh kol esek olam hazeh. Ha'yoyim la'asayis ad yimois HaMashiach she'amru b'Shabbos dehem yomim she'ein behem lo yischus. That once you come to Yemos HaMashiach, it's not about the Yira Chashus anymore, it's all Yira Shamayim. We're all walking around having Yira Shamayim. That's what's going on when Mashiach comes. The Yishala in Koyach HaBechira, we're finished with the Indian of Bechira Kishiag. At the stage of Bechira, your choices have been made. Your choices are over. The time of choices, you had 6,000 years to make choices. Often we made the wrong choices. Once it comes to, as a society, as Jewish people, as individuals, once it comes to the time of Mashiach, Yishlam Koyach HaBechira. Kshiyagia l'tachlis hashlemus diyur Shamayim. Demachvi l'hu Yitzchak Kadosh Baruch Hu be'inayhu. Shehu darga de Yitzchak, this is all the darga of Yitzchak, sheyagia l'shlemus hayira ayidei riyas Hashem yisbarach noichach einav. The way he came to Yer Shamayim is by looking God straight in the eye. This is what happened at the Akedah. The Akedah, Yitzchak looked straight into the Shamayim. That's the position. The Akedah position. The Akedah position, and then there were Malachim. You saw the workings of Shamayim, and then the Malachim rained tears into the eyes of Yitzchak. So there was interaction, strange interaction, very deep interaction. So I just, he quotes this Gemara, and I wanted to go through this Gemara together. It seems like an unknown a little bit.
Quick question again.
Yeah.
This idea of reaching a point where you don't have the chira anymore, because you're someone, is this what Yaakov was davening for when he says, "V'haya Hashem li le'elokim"?
Does it say that?
It says something similar to that, I think. But
I'm not sure. My understanding of that is that he was davening to be able to live out midas hadin instead of midas harachamim.
But from
Speak up, Penny.
like the shaman, but from the Oitzer of the Malachim, the need of the Malachim, the
Hashpa, or Geshamim is even more poetic, but it's an interaction. We're feeling the tears of the Malachim, and they're blinding me, and this is a good thing. He sort of quotes this Gemara in Shabbos, which is not an easy Gemara, but let's take a look. The Shabbos Pei Tesam and Beis, and the Gemara is the Mishnah here on Pei Tesam and Beis quotes the famous pasuk that we say so often in Yom Kippur davening and in Slichas, Em yu chatoechem kashonim kasheleg yalbinu. It's a pasuk in Yeshaya. Yeshayahu said this at the very beginning of his Chazon Yeshayahu, Parak Aleph. He says, Im yu chatoechem kashanim kasheleg yalbinu. So Yeshayahu there in Parak Aleph is a very difficult parak. Very well quoted, but very difficult parak. Lovely rives zivchechem amar Hashem. How could you daven to me when you have blood on your hands? All of your mitzvahs don't mean anything to me. Speaking in the name of Hashem, if you steal from other people, your davening doesn't mean anything to me if it's only lip service. Almost every piece of musar about our hypocrisy and our double standards comes from Yeshayahu Parak Aleph. What a parak! He shakes up the whole world. Yeshayahu. They hated him, by the way. Menashe HaMelech, his grandson, killed him for this parak. What are you criticizing? But he was saying a certain kind of a truth that nobody wants to hear. And in the middle of that parak, he says, that if your chatoim will be, kashanim means what? Scarlet red. Shanim is the red that comes from what's the worm that dyes red? Yeah, what's it called in English? Katoila. Tatola. So there's a certain worm that gives off this very, very strong red dye. They used it a lot in the Mishkan, interestingly. They used it a lot in the Mishkan to dye things this kind of scarlet red color. And it's a dye that, it says there by the Mishkan, which doesn't come out. It's a red dye which doesn't come out easily. You put water on it, it's still there. It's not just a superficial stain, it's a dye. There's a difference. And even if you'll get to that point, Yeshayahu in a moment of comfort tells us, Kashanim yalbinu. Hashem will make it, Kasheleg yalbinu, he'll make it white like snow. Go from the most crimson color to the most pure white snow comes straight from the Shamayim. White. It's not white that became. It's white straight from the Shamayim. It's very pure, very white until we ruin it. If you grow up in the snow, you know that it's so beautiful for the first 5 minutes after it snows until the cars go on and this pollution goes into it. So says the Gemara as follows. Let's learn this Gemara together. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. Im yuchat ha'echem kashonim halalu. That the diuk is that shani, shniat telas, is shani without a mem. But why does it say im yuchat ha'echem kashonim? Kashel yalpinu. It's not the lashon. Shanim is not the lashon. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yitzchak says that there's Rabbi Yitzchak. It says that there's a drasha here that is kashonim is a remez to years also. Im yuchat ha'echem kashonim halalu. What? Shesturais uvais Misheshis Yirei Brachis Va'ad Achshov Kashela Yelbinu. He's giving an eitzah here, Yeshayahu, he's saying that you have a lot of averas. But if the averas that you have, you're masader like years from Sheshis Yirei Brachis until now, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be mindful you. Does anybody have any idea what that means? What's the meaning of organizing my chatoim? Kashonim. Yeshayahu meant, if they're red, I'll make them white. But Rabbi Yitzchak saying, if you make them into years, you have up to a chance.
About years until Avram Avinu, or which years exactly? Years until Yeshayahu's time? It's talking about the years until Avram Avinu, or the years until Yeshayahu?
Till today. In other words, put your averas in the perspective of years. Okay, so hold on. It's a Gemara Nifla. I don't know exactly what it means, what Rabbi Yitzchak meant. He was saying something over here. The Gemara goes further. Let's go further, then we'll go back. Zorash Rov, by the sea, says there in Yeshayahu, Aleph, L'chuna v'nivacha yoybar Hashem. He said, Yeshayahu, you know what would be nice if somebody, let's take a look at Yeshayahu, right on top of your head. Yeshayahu Aleph. Eddie Yisrael. So Yeshayahu, in the middle of his Musar, he says, these words are very. Stop bringing mincha shav. Stop bringing korbancha without kavana. It's just an abomination to me. Chodesh v'Shabbos kroy mikra layuchal oven va'atzara chadsheichem v'yadechem sana nafshi. Your Yom Tovim are nothing. Your Rosh Chodesh is nothing. Hayu alayla teirach. Hashem says just a tircha for me. You're making me come and. It's hard for me to carry. And when you pick up your hands in tefillah, I'm just going to ignore you. Gam kisarbu sfila, and even if you'll daven, einani shemeya, I'm not going to listen. Yedechem damim malaya. Why? Because your hands are full of blood. Rachatzu. Now he's giving an eitzah. Rachatzu, hizaku, hasira royam aleichem. This is what you need to do. Don't daven more. Cleanse yourself. Purify yourself. Hasira royam aleichem. Clean up your midos. Clean up your act. Midagedei chitlu hara. Limdu heitem. Dirshu mishpat. Learn. Search for justice. Ashru chamos. Ashru chamos. Hadrichu es hagazlan v'lamduhu lazay v'sdarkei hara. Give some derech to be makar people. Ashru chamos. What a, that should be a name of an organization. Ashru chamos. Shiftu yasem. Give fair judgment to yasem. Rivu almana. Fight for the almana. Social justice. So Yeshayahu is saying, then you can come daven to me. Then you come to Shabbos. Then you come to Yom Tov. So says Yeshayahu. Okay. In yeshivas we don't learn Tanakh. So we just daven. We just daven. Like, oh, you learn Tanakh, you learn Yeshayahu. He's saying that he goes on. This is the beginning of Chazayin Yeshayahu ben Abayitz. This is the Chazayin Yeshayahu ben Abayitz. Perek Aleph. This is the problem. This is why there's going to be a Chorban Beis Hamikdash. Yeshayahu Salaylos with Ish Tveis Vasayim Anoichu v'Toich Ab Tveis Vasayim Anoichu Yosheves. He felt that the hypocrisy of the generation and the priority system of the generation had gone completely bad, where we're doing all the external religious things, but we're not. Are we really from? What's going on?
Has anything changed, Rebbe?
It's like, and he says, I mean, I'm marking it because it speaks to me. It's like real, like serious Musar.
That's why we read it with Tisha B'Av, right?
Yeah. Shabbos Chazayin. It's a Chazayin, by the way. This was just so while we're here. This is the highest level of Nevuah. Is Chazayin. It's not a Chaloim. It's not a Re'iyah. It's not a Shmiyah. It's a Chazayin. Vayera Hashem el Abraham b'machaze leimor. It was the highest level of Chazayin. And then he says to them, and this is what we're going to comment on next few minutes, L'chu na v'nivacha yomer Hashem. L'chu na v'nivacha yomer Hashem im yiu chatoechem kashonim kashel gelbinu. Our puzzle. So what does he mean when he says Yeshayahu, L'chu na v'nivacha? So I'm just reading the Pirush here, it's right in front of me. L'chu na v'nivacha yomer Hashem. Yeshayahu, speaking in the name of Hashem, says, let's have it in Klal Yisrael. Let's sit down and let's have it in Torah. Who's right, me or you? That's what Hashem says to the people. Kivyachol, Hashem mevakesh lehistayin im Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mevakesh. Let's sit down. We'll talk about it. What does it mean? Lahashmiya lahem es tanoisav kenegdam. I want the Klal Yisrael to hear what I have to say by tainus on Klal Yisrael. I want to tell them what they're doing wrong and what's going to come of this. And Klal Yisrael is going to be able to say their tainus. We also have tainus. You know, it's not been easy for the Jewish people. But we also have tainus. So Yeshayahu Hanavi is subpoenaing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, setting the stage, HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael to come together for a Din Torah. Who's right? L'cha na v'nivacha yomer Hashem. He points out here that at the end, Klal Yisrael doesn't say anything in this paragraph because Hashem keeps talking. Okay.
Who's going to pass him?
Who's going to pass him? Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's time we heard. Yidechem damim malayu. We heard. So the Gemara says, look, the Gemara analyzes this. Rava analyzes this, and he says, L'chuna v'nivacha yomer Hashem. He says, let's understand the lashon. L'chuna bo'una mi'bayilei. Why does it say go and let's have a Din Torah? Come, let's have a Din Torah. That's what it should have said. Why l'chuna? It should have said bo'una. Yomer Hashem. Hashem will say, what should it say? Omar Hashem. So, L'chuna bo'ona mi'bayilei. Yomer Hashem, Omar Hashem mi'bayilei. Says the Gemara, Rebbe says, obviously this pasuk is going on, Osid Lavai, something that's going to happen. This Din Torah is yet to happen. And where are they going? L'chuna, where are they going? Yomer lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem will tell us, to them, if you want a lawyer, if you want an advocate to help you in this Din Torah, go to the Avos and they'll help you out. Go get yourself a good lawyer, because we're going to have a real din over here. And who's your lawyers that should be? My Eitzah says Hashem to you is L'chuna, go to the Avos. That's how Rava understood. Where are they going? Go to the Avos. Avram Yitzchak Yaakov. They will advocate for you in the Beis Din Shomala. Yomer Lefanav, now listen to this Gemara, unbelievable Gemara. Yomer Lefanav, Klal Yisrael answers back, Darshan Rava, Rebbe Shlita. Who exactly are you suggesting should be our lawyer? It's Avram. Should we go to Avram? Shamar Deloy, that you told him Yodoya Teda. You said to Avram Avinu Yodoya Teda Kigeri Yazaracha Beres Lohem. Our boy Ashana Idu that for 400 years we're going to be slaves, and even more the way the Ramban says it's talking about the Babylonians and the Romans and the Greeks and the Persians and God knows what stars we're going to have. Baba Eda, all because Avram Avinu said, Baba Eda, how am I going to know? How am I going to know that you're really giving me children? Because Baruch Hu punished all of us. He's our advocate. He said, Yodoya Teda, Baba Eda, Yodoya Teda, you'll know. Gary Azaracha, but like Bikesh Racham Yimaleinu, Avram Avinu didn't have any Rachmanas on us. Avram Avinu didn't say to you, it's taka a good kasha, Rav is asking. A good kasha. Hashem says to Avram Avinu, Bruce Ben Absarim, you're going to have all kinds of sorrows for all of history, and he didn't protest. Go on, cut them a little bit of slack here, give them a break. What's going on? Didn't protest. 400 years you're going to be in Mitzrayim, didn't protest. Why? So we should go to him? It's a Yitzchak? Should we go to Yitzchak? Sheberach es Esav? He gave a bracha to Esav, V'haya kasher tarid, Achar b'cha tichya. All of our tzaras are from Yitzchak? Loi bikesh racham yimaleinu. It's a Yaakov? Should we go to Yaakov? She'amar teloi anoichi eredim cham Mitzrayim, Loi bikesh racham yimaleinu. So Klal Yisrael's down on the obvious loss of love. They didn't help us. They could have intervened, thank you, and they didn't. It's a minay l'chachshav. Yomer Hashem. Yomer Hashem. I'm going down with you to Mitzrayim, meaning I'm going down with all Klal Yisrael to Mitzrayim. No, I don't want to go to Mitzrayim. Rashba, by the way, that they could have intervened. They could have said, Rashba for the Gemara, that if Avram Avinu would have said no galus, there wouldn't have been galus. So the kasha remains. Why didn't he? But if you want, we should go use them as our lawyers. So the answer is l'chuna v'nivacha. What's the end of the story? Yomer Hashem. Our only lawyer is who? Hashem. We'll say Hashem. We're going direct. You know, I don't want to say about the others. Rebbe saying, but like in Yiddish, they have an expression: "Shliach shalom kemoisei." A shliach is azay v'agapegener. Kemoisei, it's like a mace. Shliach shalom kemoisei. It's like sending a shliach is nothing. We have to go directly. Don't send us to an address of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We're going directly with you.
Throwing ourselves on the mercy of the court.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Omar lema kodesh baruch hu. Okay. Hoyut lisem atzochem bi. Okay, you're going straight to me. That's different. Tibiu chatoechem kashonim. Kashel yobinu. Beautiful. Rava takes apart one pasuk of Yeshayahu, Rava, and understands that this is where. So listen, where does the kapara come in? Kashelag yalbinu means that you look at snow, it's pure, it's never been affected, it has never been cleaned. It comes that way. It's not like about tshuva, kilu, where there's still a kesem. It's about tshuva where it's snow white. Snow white, pure. And now's where the Gemara begins. Omar Reb Shmuel Bar Nachmani. Comes Reb Shmuel Bar Nachmani. He says, Omar Rabbi Yoina's son, my dechsiv. I'll tell you another pasuk in Yeshayahu. Ki ata avinu. Yeshayahu, here now he's taking the part of Klal Yisrael. Before he was taking the part of Hashem in this dialogue. Now he's taking the part of Klal Yisrael. Ki ata avinu. Ki Avram lo yadanu. V'Yisrael lo yakiranu. You are our father, says Klal Yisrael, because Avram Avinu lo yida'anu, do not know us. Not we did. V'Yisrael lo yakiranu. Yaakov Avinu, Ata Hashem Avinu Goylan. Same concept. Ata Hashem, we're not getting anything from Avram. What's missing here in this pasuk? Our Yitzchak. The Rebbe. Yitzchak the Rebbe. La'asid Lavai, says Rav Shul Bar Nachmani, or Nachmani according to the Rebbe. Huh?
Says the Rebbe?
No, I always think Yitzchak's the Rebbe.
Oh, I never said it's a Gemara.
La'asid Lavai, Amar Lai HaKadosh Baruch Hu LaAvram. See, let me just, there's a story that's never told about the Balatanya. That the Balatanya, somebody came to the Rebbe, the Balatanya, Alter Rebbe, somebody came to the Balatanya and asked him for a tikkun on an Avera that he did. In a minute, you go to the Rebbe and say, how do I do tshuva for this Avera? But when you go to a Rosh Hashiva, you say, how do you do tshuva? You get one kind of an answer. When you go to a Rebbe, you get a different kind of an answer. So that answer is called the tikkun. What's the tikkun? So he said, what Avera did you do? So he said that, what's this called in psychotic terms? He had intimate relationships with a dead woman.
Necromancy.
Necromancy. So Balatanya, heard this. It was like most Yetzaharas you can somehow relate to, even if you don't do it. This was off the charts. Balatanya, Kodesh Kodashim, it was completely off the charts. So the Balatanya writes in a number of places in Likutei Torah that if somebody comes to you, this is just so germane to Reb Tzaddik here, if somebody comes to you kilu for a tikkun, he's giving Rebbe lessons, so we can all be Rebbes here. If somebody comes to you for a tikkun, so the way to give the tikkun is not by looking it up or Googling it, but the way to give the tikkun is to find that chesaron in yourself. If you can find that chesaron somewhere in yourself, like somewhere you can identify it in yourself, I can find it somewhere in yourself, then you're in a position to give a tikkun to the other people. Even if it doesn't mean that you did that Aveira, but you can somehow, on some level, did that Aveira. On some level, you did that Aveira. Maybe you didn't kill somebody, but maybe you embarrassed somebody in public. On some level, and when you can find it in yourself, then your neshamas are connected, and you can give a tikkun to other people. So writes the Balatanya in a number of places. A fascinating, not just sort of psychological, but psychological observation, but a very, very deep spiritual idea that somehow or another, it seems to me that Yitzchak recognized Esav, was able to feel like somehow what Esav was. See, if you want to help somebody in the tikkun, there's this need to understand that person, but not just understand them academically, like you're a sugya, you're a block gemara, but to be able to process that through a very, very deep place within you.
Like the best drug counselors make former drug addicts, like our former drug addicts.
Yeah. Like I mentioned here, one of my Rebbe once told me that if you can master, if you get to the point where you can master really feeling somebody else's sour and somebody else's really affair, then you can start writing good books. That was a haskava I got once on one of my sparm. You can start writing good books, if you could really understand the depth, right? If you can really understand the depth of what's going on in the other person's neshama through the light of your own neshama, is what to talk about. And you're a Rebbe. That's why I say Yitzchak was a real Rebbe. So Balatanya is this I'm not a Rebbe for you. You've gone so far off the charts. I have nothing. It's like there's nothing in my life that I could even relate this to. And as he was, and the person said, this is the story that I heard. Mechila, it's a story that I heard from Rabbi Khan. He said that as the person left him, and it was to leave some money for tzedakah with the Rebbe, and he left a coin on the table, and he left Bepachi and Nefesh, he was leaving, and the Balatanya looked at the coin, and on the coin there was a picture, an engraving of, I think, the Queen Catherine.
After the Great.
The Great, yeah.
Russia.
Of Russia.
Russia.
It was in Russia. So he looked at this coin as he left, and she's dead. And he said, it's beautiful. He looked at the coin, and The way I remember the story we told, the light from the window was shining on the coin and sparkling this image. And when the Balatanya looked at it, he called the man back. He said, "I can give you a ticket."
Why?
Rabbi Yitzchak's going to repeat the story.
Why at that point the shining light?
How could he even have a drop of attraction, hana, from a dead graven image on copper of a dead queen? Okay, doesn't mean that the Balatanya embrace the coin, but even the thought helped. He found someplace within him, at a level of tzaddik gamur. He found someplace within him that he can give a tikkun to this manovel. There's someplace where we can connect, and someplace where we can relate. It seems to me that when Klal Yisrael came to the avos, can we connect with the avos? Can we connect with the avos? Can the avos connect with us? So Amar of Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar of Yonasan Maidachsiv ki Ata Avinu ki Abraham lo yidanu ki Yisrael lo yakiranu. Abraham Avinu didn't understand us, as I said. Yaakov Yisrael lo yakiranu. Ata Hashem Avinu go'aleinu Yomer Hashem. There will come a time, says Rabbi Shmuel, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will come to Avram Avinu and he will say to him, Banecha chatuli, your children have done chet. You want to do something about it? Omer lefanav, Avram Avinu's answer is, Ribbono shel olam, yimachu al kedusha shemecha. What's meant this? Huh? If they don't behave, send them to the principal's office. Omar Eimelei Yaakov. The Malchal Kedusha says Mecha. Omar Eimelei Yaakov Dahavi Leitzar Gidol Bonim Efshir Deboy Rachmei Alayu. He said, go to Yaakov. Avram Avinu said, go to Yaakov. He has Tsar Gidol Bonim. He'll appreciate, your Tsar. Amarlei Bonecha Chatu. So Hashem says to Yaakov, Bonecha Chatu. Klal Yisrael, they're out of order. Amar Lefanav Ribbono shel olam, Yimachu al Kedusha Shemecha. Get rid of them. Amar Shmuel bar Nachmani said, or Hashem said, I'm not sure who said this. Loi b'savei tama v'loi b'dardiki eitza. Don't go to old people, don't go to young people. Old people, loi b'savei tama. They have no patience for you. Old people, they've been through life, they don't want to hear the kvetching. Loi b'dardiki eitza, young people have nothing to say. So who do you have to go to? Not to Avram, not to Yaakov. Who's missing here in this pasuk? Yitzchak, the Rebbe. Amarlei Yitzchak, Bonecha Chatuli. So they came to Hashem comes to Yitzchak. He says, Bonecha Chatuli. Amar Lefanav. So Yitzchak says, Ribbono shel olam, Bonai v'loi Bonecha. What are they? My children? They're not your children. Bonecha Chatuli. Your children, your grandchildren have done a chet, and they're not your children. For me, they're great-great-grandchildren too. They're Baba's children. When Klal Yisrael said Nasav Nishma Karazalem B'ni B'chari Yisrael, then they're your children. Achshav Banai V'loi Banecha. So he says to the Ribbono shel olam, this is Yitzchak, like the Berditchever. He says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he says, all of a sudden they're my children. It's like our wives say this all the time.
Your kids.
Your kid's room is a mess. Your daughter is not home yet. All of a sudden, something's wrong. Why do I have a deeper responsibility for my children than you have, Hashem, for your children? What are you coming to me for? So he's directing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, listen to what's happening here. He's directing HaKadosh Baruch Hu not to go through intermediaries and lawyers and advocates and talk to, help out your children. You talk to your children. This is what Yitzchak said, talk to your children. Ishbaya? But it says furthermore, interesting Gemara, how much did they already do? Chet. Klal Yisrael. How much chet did they already do? How much does a person live already? Average guy, Shivim Shana. 70 years. After that, it's not exactly right life. Dal, Estrim, take away 20 years, first 20 years, he's not a Baroinshin, or first English. Pashaluhu Chamshin, what's left here? 50 years. Sachakol. Dal, Estrim, Chamisha, Delayla Lusa. Of that 50, 25 years is nighttime. We don't, right? We're tzaddikim when we sleep. Pashalu, Estrim, Chamisha, what do you have? 25. Dal tartis treyu palga ditsluye umeichal de beisakise. Take away 12 and a half years where they're busy davening, they're not doing a chet. They're busy eating, and they're in the beisakise. So what's the Gans 11 is 12 and a half years. Pashalu tartis treyu palga. Imatasoibel skula mutav imlav palga alayu palga alech. He says, I'll make a deal with you. He says, if you can handle these 12 and a half years of chet, good. If not, I'll take 6 and a quarter. So Yitzchak was not only a Rebbe in the sense that he was the advocate for Klal Yisrael, but he was like a business Rebbe too. He was a business Rebbe. Like Levi Yitzchak. He was a Barditchever. Barditchever Rebbe. B'imtaymar Elamai Hashem, you're saying, Kulhu Alai. No. It's you. 12 and a half years are yours. You have to take it. He says, Hakrivas nafshi kamach. I did mine. I took I was on the Akedah. My Akedah is worth the 12 and a half years of every Jew that comes out after this. So leave them alone. Yitzchak. Pasku v'amru ki ata avinu. So Klal Yisrael, this is reading into Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani, reading into the pasuk in Yeshaya. Yitzchak, you're our father. Not Abraham, not Yaakov, but Yitzchak. Omerlam Yitzchak, so Yitzchak says to them as follows. You're welcome. You're welcome, I saved you. But ad sha'atem mekalsin li, but instead of praising me, kalsu la'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Better praise Hashem, umachvi, this quote from Reb Tzadok, quote from the Gemara, umachvi lohain Yitzchak u'chabrichu be'einayu. And Yitzchak pointed upwards and directed their eyes away from him, straight to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the title. Machvi lohain Yitzchak. Yitzchak directed them. L'kuchabrichu be'einayu, Hashem should be in their eyes. Meaning that Yitzchak said to the Klal Yisrael, don't talk about Avram, don't talk about Yaakov, and don't talk about me. Just go direct. Have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you want a Yeshua, go straight to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I mean, today there's an industry of bracha givers and mekubalim and all kinds of tzaddikim gewaldig. I mean, the takat tzaddikim. You can tzaddikim, no question about it. But you don't. Says Yitzchak machvilu lohain Yitzchak u'chabrichu be'einayu. You can look straight up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not necessary. Miyad, it immediately noisim eineihem la'moraim. Klal Yisrael looks up to the Shamayim v'oimrim ato Hashem Avinu v'yaleinu me'olam shemecha. This is the Gemara. So Yitzchak.
Is that because Yitzchak experienced it? By that kid, shot, but he's the one out of all three who looked straight up to Shamayim.
What question are you answering?
I mean, that's why he's going to Yitzchak, and Yitzchak's giving that Eitzah.
He went to Yitzchak because Abraham and Yaakov failed him.
But Yitzchak's giving us Eitzah because he's the one who was able to look straight up to Shamayim on that kid. And if everybody else could attain that. So.
When we think of advocacy,
because Yitzchak laid on that mizbe'ach,
right.
and the Shamayim was straight open to him. And when you're in that position, you have to be in that position with a knife on your neck. Avraham Avinu standing over you. But when you're in that position, you saw straight into the Shamayim and had your Shamayim. And Yitzchak realized at this moment that there is nothing else but me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What does a person feel like when they're in that situation, when the cherev chadam menachas al tzavara shel adam? There's nothing, there's nothing in this world except for me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Somebody once told me such a davar habragesh. They said they were Leiladu in a horrible car accident, and they were pinned under the car. And this woman said she wasn't sure if she was alive or she was dead. And at the distance she heard ambulances, and the ambulances was a wonderful sound to her. We hear ambulances and we say, like, oh yeah, ambulance not good. We feel like, oh, it's wonderful, a wonderful sound to her. And the people gathering around was wonderful, but there was a car on top of her. She said, and everything was too far away. She said that I had a makom of yichud elyon. That was the lashon that she used. It was me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Machmilei liYisrael beinai. I looked straight up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked straight down to me. I was saved. There comes a matzav of even the avos, even Abraham, Yaakov, even Yitzchak says, "Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Go straight." Why? So you're saying, why did Yitzchak have this? Because Yitzchak, not Abraham, not Yaakov, not anybody else, was standing there eye to eye with HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the mizbe'ach. He was pinned under the car. He was eye to eye with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he came to Madrega of your Shamayim. That situation blinded him. Why did that situation blind him? What was the pshat?
Ain't old Milvado.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. There was nothing else in the world right now. There was nothing else. Not my boss, not my insurance agent, nothing. Not the ambulances, there was not even Avraham Avinu was there. He's doing the rest of Hashem.
Yira was replaced with Yira. Yira was replaced with
Yira was Har Hashem Yeroeh. The Har Hashem Yeroeh. That's what it says about that makom. This is the Har Hashem, Har Maria, Har Hashem Yeroeh. This was the place of vision where, ironically, Yitzchak lost his vision. Or he lost his sight, his short-sightedness, and therefore was only able to see very, very far. And it was Yitzchak who became then the Barjit Shaver. It was Yitzchak who then became the one who could see the godless of Esav and wanted to give him a bracha. And Vayarach Ezreach Begadav, Vayarach Ezreach Boivdav. He saw all the horrible people that came from Esav, and he smelled it and he said, "It's okay, it was Yitzchak, I'm blind to that." Yitzchak was the blind person because all he could see was HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when you see all HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he was blind. He didn't see. Now, Ein Halacha K'moisa. We don't pass like Yitzchak. But isn't it something? Let's just leave with this thought here. Isn't it interesting that if you talk about the avos in, for lack of a better word, Kabbalistic terms, Avram is the midas of Chesed. Yaakov, Tiferes Yaakov, Titin Emes Yaakov. Tiferes, Emes is Tiferes, right? Emes is the balance. Aleph is on the one side, Tuf is on the other side, Mem is in the middle. And the full balance, the full spectrum of midos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Emes. Tiferes Yaakov. Avram was Chesed, and Yitzchak was what? Din. Din, Gvura. Pachad. So, like we don't think of Reb Levi Yitzchak Bar Ditchever that way. He was the Ish Chesed. Maybe even the Ish Tiferes, but not the Ish Pachad. Not the how Yitzchak, and this is what we're learning here. Yitzchak was the Amud of Yira. So be cooked to us that the Amud of Yira, Pachad Yitzchak, the one who's the scary one, Yitzchak is the frightening one. Yitzchak is, as they say in Yiddish, Moiridik. It's Moiridik. How is he the one that was the Sanegar Gadol on Klal Yisrael? Because that Yira Shamayim, that very, very deep connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he had, that it was ayin ba'ayin with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which caused a huge pachad mitzad echad, made him blind to everybody's chesroinus. And since he was blind to everybody's chesroinus, he became the Sanegar Gadol Yisrael. That's what the Gemara is saying. You think I'm reading from a Hasidic Sefer? No, it's a Gemara in Shabbos, Beites Avot Beis. That Yitzchak was the Sanegar Gadol Yisrael because he was blind. So there's a virtue to stop seeing so much. It's interesting. It's like the Arizal says this very strange thing. I think it's quoted often. The Arizal says that whenever you embrace somebody that you love, you close your eyes. It's like an automatic reflex, because your vision now goes forever. It's not about if it's not kedusha, your eyes are wide open. But if it's kedusha, if it's ava, then it comes with a certain blindness. Love is blind. Love is blind. It's a certain blindness where I'm makabel you no matter what, and you're makabel me no matter what. My love is the bechina of Yitzchak and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The ava of Yitzchak and HaKadosh Baruch Hu machlilu beinayu. This was Yitzchak pointing up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and said, "Stop being makales me. It's not about me, and it's not about Avram. It's not about Yaakov. It's about you getting straight into the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu." That's what it's talking about. There's a certain, and that blinded him even more. That Akedah. This is what he brings out. I was on the Akedah for the Klal Yisrael. The relationship is very, very clear between my Banai and you. It's a very, very clear relationship. Shabbat Shalom.
Look towards Shamayim with their eyes.
He got them the touch. He pointed with their eyes. He pointed their eyes upward.
He taught us how to see with our eyes what he sees.
That was his lesson, and he taught HaKadosh Baruch Hu also.
He established that relationship with Christ.
What a carbon is. What a carbon is.
Where the Sagi Nahar, the Gimel and Nun switch sounds like Sanegor. I don't know if there's anything in that, but the Sanegor is the Sagi Nahar, the point.
Sanegor is an interesting word anyway, no? Sanegor.
Are very clear.
You mentioned we don't pass them like Yitzchak. You met Rabbi Meir.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
And I love it.
I just saw this morning, he was showing